Relationships shouldn't be hard. They should be easy. First, I'm going to tell you why there is some truth in it. Second, I'm going to go into why I believe that type of advice is totally unhealthy if you want to build a healthy relationship. And third, I'm going to give you an alternative so that you know, all right, next time I hear that type of advice, I know how to respond, or at least I know what to think about. And I have another way of looking at it. Here's why I believe there is truth in that. Yes, there are some relationships that are easier. Some are harder, but some are definitely easier than others because maybe we are with someone who is mature, wise, secure, who knows how to communicate effectively, who knows how to manage conflict, or someone maybe with whom we have aligned values and aligned beliefs, or we do things very similarly, or, our lifestyles just are very compatible from the start. And so, yes, some relationships are easier than others, which is why I get that someone would say relationships shouldn't be hard. The second reason why this type of advice has some truth in it is because, yes, if you don't see progress in your current relationship, despite efforts that are being made, I get that someone would say, hey, it might be time to leave, or it might be time to reconsider the relationship. So, again, if you are making all of the efforts, if you feel like you are going against the current because maybe a partner isn't willing or isn't as committed, that's when you want to start to ask yourself, what's actually going on? Is this relationship harder than it should be because there is a lack of something from my partner's side that maybe I'm not willing to tolerate, or I'm not willing to move forward with because I'm just seeing no progress and no evolution here. So I get why, in that sense, we do want a relationship where we can grow, we can see progress, we can see differences if we, let's say, communicate or have an agreement about something we're totally different on. We do want to see some sort of change if we are mutually agreeing on changing something or doing something that is better for the relationship. The other thing with this type of advice that I get is that our brain naturally seeks safety and it seeks comfort. And what is hard can be threatening to our system. And that's why I get that we naturally want a relationship that's easy because that's more comfortable, that makes us feel safer. So I totally get that. That is typically the brain in action. It's really scanning the environment to see if it's safe to be in the relationship that we're in. And we are looking in that sense for some type of smoothness, easiness. And so that's also why I get this type of advice. The other thing is that a lot of us want a relationship where we feel happy, where we feel at peace, where we feel some sense of fulfillment and satisfaction, just like a lot of us seek that in our careers, in our job. We less and less want a job that is just a job, where we don't see any type of growth or where we don't have any type of fulfillment or sense of achievement. And that is the case for many of us. I'm not saying everyone, but for many of us, that's also what we seek in relationships. And so we have a certain standard that we might not have had before that we do have today. And I'm saying standard depends on cultures, depends on so many different things. But again, today, many of us seek some sense of fulfillment and happiness from our relationships. So of course, we don't want a relationship that just feels just so hard that we don't want to be in it, and where we might as well be with someone else. So totally get that as well. And the last thing I'll say about this, before I get into why it can be really unhealthy to believe this one or to take in this type of advice, is that we grow up, if you think about it, with a lot of happy ever after stories, whether it's in the movies, in books that we read when we grow up. And plus today, we spend a lot of time on social media and we see people's highlight reels, we see people's holiday pictures, we see people posting their highlights of the year, etc., etc. And so we are really exposed to people showing the good sides of their life, and we grow up with a sense of there has to be this happy ever after, and that is understandable in a way. We are just exposed to these different types of messages around relationships. And so it does seem easy. It does seem smooth for other people, or it does start to build this belief that a relationship should be easy. So again, I get that someone would give you that advice for all of these different reasons. Now let's get into why I believe it can be totally unhealthy to take in this advice if you're looking to build a healthy, loving, thriving, growing relationship with someone. Believing a relationship should be easy can do more harm than good and can actually lead us to sabotage potentially great relationships. Because if you think about it, one, we do not learn how to be healthy partners and how to build healthy relationships. And I'm saying we, I'm generalizing here. Most of us don't learn. We don't necessarily come with a relationship one-on-one manual in school or at home. And so we really grow up with sometimes even unhealthy examples of what love is and what relationships are. And so if, again, I go back to we don't learn how to be healthy partners, communicate effectively, know how to handle conflict, even the beliefs that we bring into relationships play a role. And so we don't learn what a healthy relationship is, what that looks like, how to be in one, how to build one. And so if you think about it that way, saying that relationships shouldn't be hard is almost like asking someone to speak a new language without ever telling them how to, or just expecting them to speak a language if they don't know how to speak it. If we don't know, then how can we actually build a healthy relationship? So again, this is a generalization, but most of us don't come with this type of skills, with the beliefs, etc., needed to build a healthy relationship. And so that leads me to the second point. The second point is, again, if you think about it, we're bringing in a relationship two people that have baggage, that bring different things to the table, whether it's their communication styles, whether it's their coping mechanisms, whether it's their personalities, again, their beliefs, like I mentioned before, even trauma. There's so much that two individuals bring to a relationship. And that's where the question comes, how can it be easy to be in a relationship when we're actually learning how to be in a relationship together, when we're actually putting all of this into the mix? And that's the work of a couple. That's the work of a relationship, is how do we build something that works for us based on what we each bring to the table? And that does take effort in a relationship. Again, some are easier than others, but generally speaking, that's the work. That's how we build healthy, thriving, loving relationships, when we learn, all right, this is what we each bring. How can we be healthier partners for each other and healthy individuals even? So believing that a relationship shouldn't be hard is kind of contradictory here, because if you think about it, there's just so much that adds to, let's say, a relationship. It gets complex if you think about how much we are influenced by our past, by what we've experienced, by what we observe. And again, we're mixing this all in a bowl, and the question is like, how do we build something that works for us? And so that is that work that I was mentioning before. And that's where it being easy, yes, it can be with certain people, but usually that takes work. The next thing is every relationship goes through stages. And we don't only experience the good times. Every relationship goes through hardships as well. So you might have heard of the honeymoon stage. We also experience something called the power struggle phase before we move into other stages. And the most stable, fulfilled couples that I know have all gone through hardships, have all had a moment of challenge, or even many moments. And what has actually created the stability and has actually deepened the trust and the connection And the confidence in the relationship is knowing how to overcome the hardships. So I always add this disclaimer to any type of content that I create. I'm never assuming that you're in an abusive relationship. I do want to say that. So apart from that, you do want to go, all right, is this an opportunity for us to learn how to navigate this hardship that we're going through? Because trust isn't just created through good times. Trust is created when we can go, all right, we've gone through a challenge and we're learning how to navigate it and we're getting on the other side. That's what's going to create the confidence in the relationship, in each other, in ourselves. And that's part of a relationship. A solid relationship isn't just based on the good times, when things are going well, when we're in that honeymoon phase. Most of us experience those good times. But what happens when we experience the hardships, meaning we see our differences, we have miscommunication, misunderstandings, we develop doubts maybe. There are many, many things that happen in a power struggle phase, or if you want to call it a challenge phase. Everyone has their own challenges. But again, if we knew that trust is actually built by learning how to navigate the challenges, how would that be for your relationship? And so when we learn how to navigate challenges, yes, it does become easier with time because we get to know each other, we get to know how we want to communicate, we learn how to create agreements, we start to get to know each other at a different level. And yes, in that sense, it becomes easier with time because we build skills and we have new ways of coping with things. But at the beginning, or when we experience a challenge for the first time, even if it's 10 years in the relationship, that's usually normal. A challenge can tell us a lot about what might be going on in our relationship that needs attention. And so that is more of the first instinct that I would have if you're going through a hardship is, what is this showing me? What is this showing us? Is this exposing certain things that we haven't addressed before? Is this exposing an insecurity? Is this exposing miscommunication that we need to learn how to navigate? Is this exposing our attachment styles, if you're aware of attachment styles? So what do I typically do when I'm triggered? And what is that showing me? And so we do want to go, what is a challenge showing me before going, a hardship is bad or a challenge is bad? And that's a better way to look at it than automatically going, relationships should be easy and they shouldn't be hard. It's much more complex than that, as you can see. So let me offer an alternative to this before we go to the next piece of advice. An alternative here, when you hear that type of advice, would be, and this is one of many alternatives that you can have. So I'm going to offer this perspective, take or leave what resonates with you and what works for you. So this is some food for thought. How about, instead of relationships shouldn't be hard, they should be easy, how about relationships naturally go through a cycle of harmony, disharmony, and repair? No relationship is immune to the hard times. But when things get hard, it doesn't automatically mean the relationship isn't meant for me or that I should leave. But what matters is that me and my partner are invested enough to put in the effort and to learn how to navigate those hard times. So the question then becomes, who do I choose to navigate the ups and downs of a relationship with? And I will link some resources in the description, and one of them will be my masterclass, Are They the One?, which addresses that exact point, is when I have doubts or when we're going through hard times, how do I even know that I want to do this with this person? Because that can be a challenge on its own. But coming back to that point is, who do I choose to navigate the ups and downs with, knowing that every relationship goes through the ups and downs? So that would be an alternative that helps you look at challenges a different way, that helps you potentially grow from a challenge and build more stability, more trust, more connection with your partner, because you're learning how to navigate a challenge, communicate more effectively, handle an insecurity, address maybe a different belief that you each have. So it's more of, what is this showing us? Back to my previous points.